Most of us are raised to share and share alike and not be selfish, right? That's actually pretty bad for business. Now, bear with me here because this is not going to sound like it's part of what you grew up with. But on a Friday, probably 6 weeks ago, I saw a great post from a guy called Ray, a connection on LinkedIn that referenced an email he got from his mentor and who's someone now his client, and someone who I admire greatly too, Kate Toon. Here's a screenshot popping up now of an extract from that email that Ray shared. It got me to thinking how incredibly common it is for someone to start a new business and immediately take the attitude that because they're new or they're small, they need to charge less to get some market share. After all, that's, I guess, how a lot of big brands might have started out as well. You remember Virgin Blue, okay, the airline, who started out wanting to keep the airfare, but eventually turned into yet another full fare airline. Or Hyundai, right? They entered Australia at a super budget price point with their absolutely awful, horrible, cheap cars, but now they're pretty much an upper mid-range, almost a luxury car brand. I myself entered the website market in Darwin, which is where I live, in 2017, and I sold websites for $99, building and hosting WordPress websites for a once-off low cost of $99. I did that for nearly a year. Now, yes, I did build a massive market share, and I also caused a lot of issues for the established web agencies in the market who were charging around $15,000 for the same kind of website. But as you could probably guess, I couldn't really sustain that for long. And eventually my low price point really did work against me because a lot of businesses came to not trust that price. They assumed there was some sort of catch, there was something wrong with this, or that I might shut down within a year from going broke, and they were almost right. I eventually found myself in a bit of a mid-range of pricing, and my impact on the market though was quite lasting. I cut the average price of a website to a third of what it had been, but it had cost me a lot personally too, and professionally. Even today, I'm still yet to offload around 25 of those $99 websites, or just shut them down completely. Why did I do this in the first place? And why did Ray undervalue himself to a point that Kate had to ask him to double his rate? I think we have it in our heads from when we're kids. In this article I read recently, there's this suggestion that being forced to share our toys and belongings as a child isn't as noble a lesson as we might have thought it was. In fact, it can be really bad for us, particularly those of us with an entrepreneurial bent, because sharing becomes this obligation that causes us to become resentful. The trouble is that when a behavior is reinforced, it becomes a habit, and habits are hard to shake, especially those that are taught to us when we're young. If you're constantly forced to share your possessions, and young kids learn the value of possession at a very early developmental stage, that sharing mentality can slip into every area of our life too. You're sitting down to eat your delicious chicken salad sandwich lunch at school, and your friend who has a peanut butter sandwich says they want your salad, so you share, right? Because we're supposed to share. You don't want to, but sharing is now tied to your morality, so you share because it's the right thing to do. The trouble is that there is a whole segment of people who just know that this is an easy way to game their way into getting what they want at your expense. I refer to them as price pigs. They're the people who will scour Facebook Marketplace for a $20 desk and ask you to give it to them for free and then also deliver it to their home for them. And they'll often add some sob story such as, my daughter with a terminal illness wants a desk for her birthday and I can't afford it because I'm a single mother and I'm out of work. And just like you've learned that sharing is a good thing, they've also learned that they can get what they want from suckers like you and I, right? This pathological urge to share, it bleeds on over into our pricing as well. Now, while there's a bit of logic to starting off a new business or a new venture with a lower price than your competitors, 90% less? That's weird. That represents a real problem with your mindset and maybe even your mental health to a degree as well. There's no logic to pricing yourself at less than half the price of your competitors. And it sets a really nasty precedent because once you launch yourself as cheap, it's going to take a lot to reposition yourself as not cheap, right? For me, it took a new logo, a whole new marketing campaign, and ending certain product lines to be able to raise those rates up to the market level. But it also meant that there was a whole category of clients that I couldn't work with anymore because they couldn't afford me anymore. And that felt pretty bad because I felt like I was abandoning those who needed me the most. But here is the greatest lesson I learned from all this, and you'll go through it too. It's not my job to make myself affordable to them. It's their job to make themselves able to afford me. My services, your services, they're not the equivalent of 2 litres of milk at Woolworths or Coles. They're closer to maybe a quality lounge suite at Harvey Norman. You have to sell millions of bottles of milk each day to make even a little bit of profit, but you only have to sell 1 quality lounge suite a week to make a decent commission. So why do we feel this compulsion to turn ourselves into a bottle of milk? Again, it comes back to being trained as kids to be fair and to be equitable and to share. It's a noble idea that people all deserve access to nice things, but that isn't how the world works. In this country, we all have access to basic services like water and food and shelter, but that doesn't mean we all should have equitable access to champagne, caviar, and a 36-room mansion. I'm not a parent, so I'm not going to tell you how to raise your kids, but I am a business owner and someone who assesses and funds startups for millions in investment, and I can tell you now, you need to stop making yourself affordable and accessible to everyone. Only massive corporations with extremely high volumes of sales at low margins can afford that kind of behavior. You are boutique, might be artisan, you're selective, you're actually exclusive. So start acting like it. I'm Dante St. James.